So I decided to do my presentation on Israeli pluralism and inter-Jewish ethnic discrimination in Vasermil. A quick word about the director and the film. Mushon Salmona was born in Beersheba, Israel in 1970, serving in the IDF for 4 years and holding a bachelor's in communication at London's Metropolitan University, and a master's in cultural and critical studies from University College in London. He has produced several short films, including Father's Day and documentary projects such as The 50 Years' War through BBC and Beersheba Concrete about growing up in his hometown. Salmona directed Vasermil upon returning home to Israel, and the film won the Golden Gate Award at the San Francisco International Film Festival in 2008 and the Wolgan Award and Grand Jury Prize at the Jerusalem International Film Festival in 2007. The film's namesake is the Vasermil Soccer Stadium in Beersheba. So these are the three main characters in the film: Shlomi, Dima, and Adiel. They are all played by non-professional actors, as this really was the director's breakout film. So the three main characters in the film are growing up in a marginalized community and suffering the trials and tribulations of both adolescence and the ethnic tensions within Beersheba, Israel. Shlomi lives with his mother, sister, and stepfather, and encounters conflict at work when he loses his boss Haim's motorbike. He loses his job and is not paid in full by his boss for his work, and he relies upon the money and wishes to contribute to his family. Dima is a first-generation immigrant from Russia and lives with his mother, little sister, and unemployed and often drunk father. Adiel, on his part, is a second-generation Ethiopian Jewish immigrant and takes care of his little brother most of the time because his mother is too depressed. For these young boys, soccer becomes a hope for a way out of their neighborhood and their hardships. Through the guidance of a coach who recruits them, they are to take part in the Beersheba Youth Championship on Independence Day at the Vasermil Stadium. The ethnic tensions in the film are also extremely relevant, just in the way that the characters refer to each other, and simply boyish tensions become a lot more racially charged. I also thought the film was super interesting in the way that the liminal space between adolescence and adulthood is really pushed because of their personal lives, so that they're placed into situations that force them to assume this adult-like role. For instance, Dima is involved in drug dealing and spends time with older men who he deals from. The movie was super relevant to the course, as we have discussed many of the themes that I found present in the film. For instance, we have discussed immigration and the pluralistic nature of Israel, and this film touched upon these topics. For example, we have discussed the Mizrahi Ashkenazi divide, as well as ethnic othering in Israel. In the film, characters are often referred to by their ethnicities, Dima being called the Russian, and a boy on their soccer team called Ashkenazi by the coach in reference to his timidness. What I found extremely shocking is the casual way in which Adiel is referred to by the N-word in derision by schoolmates and teammates alike. The ethnic makeup of the city of Beersheba, where the film takes place, is well exhibited in the film. Beersheba is predominantly Mizrahi because of the influx of immigrants from Arabic-speaking countries after the establishment of Israel as a state in 1948. But there have been also waves of Russian and Ethiopian Jewish immigration to Beersheba. These latter two waves are important to the plotline because both Dima and Adiel come from immigrant families. Dima is a first-generation Russian immigrant with his family, and Adiel was born in Israel in an Ethiopian family. Ethiopian immigration recently to Israel is credited with the emergence of racism towards blackness in Israel. One scene I found particularly interesting was that of an interaction between Adiel and his younger brother, the latter saying that he was reminded of Africa by a pretty sunset in a field, and Adiel retorting, "What would you know of Africa? You were born right here." This speaks both to the pluralistic nature of Israel and also to the melting pot ideology that we discussed in class. All of the characters speak nearly flawless Hebrew, but Dima still speaks Russian with his family and one of his teachers. The children are also able to find a sort of unity under Israel through soccer and its team aspect. After playing well together in a game, we see the kids, who in scenes before were getting into fights and calling one another slurs, come together, joking and hugging one another. You can see that in the image that I included from the film. Though perhaps a predictable and rather too hopeful perception of a younger generation, the film does a lovely job depicting the fragile and budding friendships between the boys. Vasermil also acts as a film operating outside the frame of the hegemonic gaze in Israel. These children are by and large Mizrahi, or immigrants, from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. One of the articles I read on Russian immigration to Israel also discussed the manner in which some Russian immigrants aren't really fully thought of as Ashkenazi. The ending of the film is rather discouraging. Shlomi is beat up by the associates of Haim, his former boss, and Dima is caught in a drug bust. Adiel's younger brother runs away when his mother forgets to keep an eye on him. The message, in the end, becomes pointedly less hopeful. In any case, we learn quite a bit about Israeli society and its pluralistic nature through the stories of these children from marginalized homes. The soccer game as a way to build community is reminiscent of Benedict Anderson's imagined communities. The soccer game constitutes a shared action and activity by the community in order to create a sense of togetherness. Another scene that is illustrative of this sort of forming of the nation, as well as Israel's continuous nature of building itself, is Dima's playing the piano in front of his school on Independence Day. The school is gathered together, honoring the military, and he is asked to play a song on friendship and is introduced as a Russian-born immigrant. The themes of immigration and the building of the nation-state are important globally, especially as they pertain to the trauma associated with the individual's navigation of global systems, such as hardening borders and increased pressure on immigrants in the modern day. We see Dima's father cry because he cannot find work, and Adiel's mother in a deep state of depression. The process of social othering is also widely present in society. In the film, Adiel is othered by being called racial slurs, and in the manner in which the rest of the team initially does not pass the soccer ball to him. Mizrahi immigrant communities are also marginalized by social, economic, and political structures in Israel. Thus, the track in which these children find themselves is not particularly one of chance. This is rather important because of such structures hold communities down all over the world.